The Ledger of Borrowed Hours.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Silent Frequency. I know many of you use these videos to fall asleep, so before you drift off, I'd love it if you could leave a comment letting me know where you're listening from around the world. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe if you're enjoying the video.
I found the key inside a library book that wasn't mine. It slipped out when I opened the cover. Old brass, blackened at the teeth, warm like it had been held a moment ago. On the first page, someone had written my name in pencil. Not the neat way a student signs a textbook. The letters looked pressed in, as if carved through the paper. I checked the card pocket. No checkout slip, no stamp, no record it existed. The librarian didn't look up when I asked where it belonged. She only pushed her finger across the counter, guiding my gaze to a narrow door I'd never noticed before. Lost and found, the sign said, but the paint was fresh, too fresh for the rest of the place. The key vibrated in my palm when I walked toward it. The doorknob didn't turn. The key fit anyway. The door opened onto a room that looked wrong the way a dream looks wrong, perfectly believable until you try to measure it. It was small, but it didn't have corners. The walls curved gently, like the inside of a throat. Pale paint, no shelves, no boxes, only a single chair facing the center, and in the center, a metal tray holding a stack of index cards. I stepped inside, and the door shut behind me without a sound. On the first card, return what you took. I laughed because I hadn't taken anything. The laugh came out thin. The air absorbed it. The air felt padded. Second card, you took time. My chest tightened. I'd been late lately. Late to work, late to sleep, late to remember why I walked into rooms. But everyone's like that. Third card, we want it back. There was a smear across the bottom of the card, like thumbprint ink. But it wasn't ink. It was dark, glossy, and it smelled faintly of pennies. Behind me, the door handle began to turn. Spun, expecting the librarian or a prank, the handle turned slowly, as if someone was savoring it. Then it stopped. I reached for it. The metal was cold enough to sting. I tried the latch. Locked. From the other side came the librarian's voice, muffled and calm. Did you find what you were missing? I was missing nothing. My words felt childish in that rounded room. Everyone is missing something. Her voice brightened like she'd smiled. Read the last card. There are more? No answer. Just the soft slide of paper against paper, as if someone outside was sorting cards too. My fingers shook as I flipped to the bottom. The final card was blank until I blinked. Then letters appeared, slow as breath fogging glass. Tonight, 2:13. Bring your shadow. My own shadow lay at my feet, long and distorted by the light source I couldn't see. As I stared, it twitched, not like fabric moving, like an animal adjusting its stance. And when I lifted my foot, it stayed behind for half a second, then snapped back into place. The door opened again, suddenly, easily, like it had never been locked. The library looked normal, fluorescent lights, carpet, quiet footsteps. I was sweating as if I'd run. The librarian stood at the desk, face angled down. I couldn't see her eyes under her bangs. I set the key on the counter. She didn't touch it. "Keep it," she said. "I don't want it." "You already agreed," she replied, as if we'd signed papers together. "I never—" She finally looked up. Her smile was too wide, but not in a monstrous way, in a human way, stretched by practice. "You did, when you opened the book." I backed away. Outside, the daylight felt thin and loud. Cars passed, people spoke, but the sound seemed slightly delayed, like the world wasn't synced right. At home, I tried to throw the key away, down the garbage disposal, out the window, into a cup of bleach. Every time I blinked, it was back on my kitchen counter, dry and warm. That night, I lay in bed watching the clock. At 2:13, the room temperature dropped. At 2:13, my shadow stood up. It peeled itself off the floor like a sticker coming loose. The shape was mine, same shoulders, same slouch, except its edges rippled like smoke trapped in skin. I couldn't move. Sleep paralysis, I told myself, a nightmare pinned over my eyes. Then it leaned close enough that I smelled it. Damp basement air, old cloth, something faintly sweet like rot. It whispered in my voice, "Bring me back." My mouth worked around dry words. Back where? It pointed, not at the door, not at the window, but at the corner of the room. Except the corner wasn't a corner. The walls curved there, subtly, like the library room had followed me home. The shadow's head tilted, listening to something only it could hear. Then it smiled. Shadows shouldn't smile. Its teeth were the absence of light, shaped into points. It moved toward the curved corner, sinking into it as if the wall were water. For a moment, its hand remained, fingers splayed, reaching for me. Then even that was gone. The clock rolled to 2:14. My body unlocked. I sat up screaming, but the scream came out delayed, like sound from a bad video. On my bedside table, the brass key waited.
I didn't go back to sleep. I didn't turn on the lights. I just sat there until dawn, staring at the key, waiting for my shadow to return to the floor like a faithful dog. It didn't. At work, people asked if I was sick. I told them I hadn't slept. That was true enough. At lunch, I went to the library to return the book. I hadn't checked it out, but it was still in my bag, heavier than it should have been. The cover had changed, its title now embossed in raised, fresh letters. Ledger of Borrowed Hours. I opened it, and the pages flipped themselves, fast. A wind that wasn't there ruffled my hair. It stopped on a page filled with neat lines, names and dates and times, like accounting. I saw my name. Next to it, taken 3,671 hours. Due 2:13 a.m. Under the numbers were tiny notes, like librarian annotations. Late, late, late. Shadow collateral accepted. My stomach lurched. I slammed the book shut. The librarian's desk was empty, but the narrow lost and found door stood open, breathing out cold air. And from inside, my voice whispered, "Bring me back." I stumbled into the lost and found room because what else do you do when reality bends like warm plastic? The curved walls waited, familiar now. The metal tray was gone. In its place sat a glass jar filled with shadows, small, writhing shapes like tadpoles made of darkness. Some pressed against the glass as if they could sense me. A new card lay on the chair. You can pay in other ways. I didn't touch it. My hands were shaking too hard. From somewhere above, no ceiling seam, no vent, came a soft counting voice. 1, 2, 3. Each number made my head throb. Each throb made my vision blur. In the blur, I saw moments that weren't mine. A child's birthday candles, a wedding dance, a hospital monitor flatlining, little flashes of time stolen and repackaged. I yelled at the walls. I didn't take anything. The room replied by making the air colder. The counting continued. 10, 11. The jar of shadows began to rattle. One shadow inside was bigger than the others. It pushed forward, shape stretching, until it looked like my silhouette pressed flat against the glass, palms out like a prisoner. Its mouth moved silently. I knew what it was saying. Help. I leaned in until my forehead nearly touched the jar. The glass was warm, like skin. The shadow inside mimicked my movement perfectly, too perfectly, like it had rehearsed. "What are you?" I whispered. The jar fogged from the inside. Letters formed in condensation. You. Ode. I backed away, knocking the chair. The chair hit the curved wall and didn't clack like wood on drywall. It sunk a little, leaving a dent that slowly smoothed itself back out again. The counting stopped. A new sound replaced it, the scratch of a pen. I turned. A ledger sat on the tray now, thick, black, and wet-looking, like leather that had been soaked and dried wrong. A pen lay beside it. No one held it, but it wrote anyway, dragging ink across the page. The pen paused, then underlined, selected, hard enough to tear paper. My throat tightened. I didn't select anything. The ink bled into new words. You opened the book. You accepted the terms. The jar rattled again. My shadow inside slammed its hands against the glass, silent, frantic. Then the door behind me shut. The room's curved wall rippled, and a seam appeared, an almost hidden line that widened into a doorway leading down. No stairs at first, just darkness. Then steps formed like teeth growing from gums. I didn't want to go, but behind me, the original door had vanished. The wall was smooth, unbroken, so I went down. The air smelled older with every step, not musty, expired. The light dimmed until my eyes hurt trying to hold it. At the bottom, I emerged into another library, bigger than the one above, but wrong in the same way the lost and found room was wrong. Candles burned in glass sconces, their flames black at the center. Books lined the shelves, each labeled with a name. I saw names of people I knew, names of strangers, names crossed out. And at the far end, a desk where a figure sat writing. It looked like the librarian, but older or younger, or both, depending on when I blinked. It didn't look up. It only said, "You're late." I walked between shelves that seemed to lean closer when I wasn't looking. The book spines whispered, a sound like paper rubbing paper, but shaped into syllables I almost recognized. I found my section without trying. My feet knew, my body knew, like it had been here before. There was a book with my name stamped in gold. It was thicker than any biography should be. I pulled it out. The cover was warm. My pulse jumped in my fingertips. Inside were pages of my life, written in plain ink. Things I remembered, my first job, my first kiss, the day my father stopped calling. But there were also entries I didn't recognize, whole weeks described in detail that I couldn't place. One entry was dated tomorrow. It described me returning home at 2:13 a.m. It described me unlocking my apartment door with a brass key. It described me stepping into a room with no corners. I slammed the book shut and looked around for an exit. The aisles had shifted. The path I'd walked was gone. At the desk, the figure finally lifted its head. It wore my face.
My double stood, and the movement was wrong, too smooth, like a puppet pulled by invisible strings. Its eyes reflected candlelight the way wet stones reflect the moon. "You're late," it said again, but this time it sounded disappointed, like a teacher marking a failing grade. "I want my shadow back." It smiled with my mouth, but the expression didn't reach the eyes. "You want what you pledged." "I didn't pledge. You did. You just didn't read the fine print." It stepped closer, and the air around it made my skin crawl, like static before a storm. I noticed then that its shadow didn't match its body. It was too large, too stretched, as if it belonged to something taller. The candles flickered, the shelves creaked. From behind the books, shadows slid out, thin as ribbons, dragging across the floor. They gathered at my feet, climbing my shoes like eager hands. My double held out a palm. Resting there was my brass key. "Return," it said, "and you can go." I reached for the key. The ribbons tightened around my ankles. The moment my fingers touched brass, the key bit into my skin. Sharp heat, a brand, a promise. And somewhere, far above, I heard my own apartment door unlock. The library lurched like a ship hit by a wave. Books trembled, dust fell upward. The candles hissed and bent sideways as if wind blew through a sealed room. My double smile widened. "Time doesn't like being owed," it murmured. I yanked my hand back, but the burn on my palm remained, an imprint shaped exactly like the key's teeth. The shadows at my feet yanked hard. I stumbled forward, toward the desk, toward my double. I clawed at the ribbons, but my fingers passed through them like cold smoke. Then the shelves opened, just slightly, and I saw inside them, not books, but hours, stacked like thin film reels. Each reel showed someone living, laughing, dying, each labeled with a due date. The air filled with a distant ticking, not a clock, 1,000 clocks, layered. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I didn't remember bringing it down here. The screen lit. 2:13 a.m. A second notification. Home door unlocked. My stomach flipped. I looked up. My double said softly, "Your shadow is already on its way back, but it won't be alone." My phone ticked to 2:14. The underground candles all went out at once, and in the total black, something enormous inhaled. In the dark, I felt it move. Something that wasn't a person, wasn't even shaped like one. The air pressed against my eardrums like deep water. A scrape came from the shelves, then another, like claws dragged gently across wood. My double's voice drifted close, though I couldn't see it. "Don't worry, it likes familiar shapes." A match flared somewhere. Yellow light bloomed, trembling. My double held the match under its chin. My face in that light looked waxy, half melted. It angled the match toward the floor. A shadow spread out from my feet, but it wasn't mine. It rose, stretching into a tall figure with too many joints. When it turned its head, the movement cracked like breaking knuckles. It leaned down until it was inches from me. I couldn't see details, only the sense of a mouth where there shouldn't be one. It spoke without sound, directly into my skull. "Pay your hours." The match burned my double's fingers, but it didn't flinch. I backed up and hit a shelf. A book fell open at my feet. Its pages were blank except for one line: "Or we will collect you." I ran because thinking was useless. My feet found an aisle that wasn't there a moment ago. The shelves shifted to make room, as if the library wanted to watch. Behind me, the many-jointed shadow moved without footsteps. It didn't chase like an animal. It simply arrived closer each time I blinked. A door appeared at the end of the aisle, bright with normal fluorescent light, the kind you hate in grocery stores, the kind that promises reality. I slammed into it and yanked. It opened onto my apartment hallway. For a breath, I nearly sobbed in relief. I smelled neighbors cooking. I heard someone's TV behind a door. Ordinary life. Then I saw the number above the elevator. 213. The hallway was wrong, too. The corners rounded, the paint too fresh, the carpet pattern repeating in a way that made my eyes ache. The brass key burned my palm again, like it was reminding me it owned me. A voice behind my shoulder, my own voice, whispered, "Don't leave me." I turned. My shadow stood in the hallway, looking human again, looking tired, like it had been running for days. But behind it, stretching out from its feet, was a second shadow, taller, hungrier, wearing my outline like a coat. My shadow raised its hands like it didn't want to scare me. It looked like a person made of dim smoke, features suggested, not drawn, but its posture was unmistakably mine, the slight lean, the defensive shoulders. "I didn't want this," it said, and the words sounded like my thoughts when I'm alone. "I want you back," I replied, voice shaking. "You want the old arrangement, you in the light, me on the floor, but you never noticed what I carried for you." Behind it, the tall second shadow writhed, impatient. It pressed forward, and my shadow flinched as if it hurt. "Tell me," I whispered. My double lifted my burned palm, studying the key mark. "You have to give it something you can't replace." The tall shadow's outline sharpened, like it liked that answer.